Hey friends, over 60% of you are listening to me right now on an Apple product. iPhone, iPad, iTunes. I need your help. The truth is, Apple will make this podcast more discoverable to new listeners the more reviews it has. So I'm here asking you to take a moment and leave a review. If you've gained any value from this podcast, the greatest thing you can do for it, besides spreading the word and telling friends, is leaving a review. It's real simple. If you're on your phone, head over to my podcast page within the Apple Podcast app and leave a review. Or if you're on a computer, you can head over to my podcast page within the iTunes app. That's it. That's all I ask. And if you have other podcasts that you love, do them a favor and do the same for them. It'll make their day. Now let's get this podcast started already. How are you, man?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing great, except for the fact that when I fire up Skype, it says you have an update, and my natural nature is to click update because at times I can be very OCD, especially with like tech stuff. Like even if the update is not always advisable, I do it anyway. And so this is the moment where I completely forget for a split second that we have a podcast to do in like 30 seconds, right? And I'm like, oh, I've got fast internet. This thing will be over with before I know it. And then, of course, like 2-3 minutes later, I'm like, well, here we are.
You are the only person I know that does update now. I'm my Mac. I just did it now. I was like, yeah, later. Let's update this later. And I've been saying that probably for 4 months now. So,
well, I can tell you that the new Mojave is not too bad. It can be. It has a few little bugs here and there, but it's not terrible. I'm not upset with it yet. I don't want to break my computer just yet.
Okay, so I should update, huh?
Yeah, no, I think you'll be safe. But by the way, it probably sounds like you're not even on High Sierra. You've probably been pushing off updates for a while, huh?
I don't even know what I'm on, so I'm not going to say, oh, look, Mac OS Mojave.
Oh, you have it?
Fine.
Okay, there you go.
No, I don't have it.
Okay.
But I'm going to do it tonight. That's my learning from our conversation, so. God,
the people that aren't really tech people are probably just ready to throw their phones out their cars or throw it out the window or what. Maybe they're for a run, which is your thing. And they're probably like, damn it, get on to the other stuff. And the other thing I will say before we really dive in, it's like, the next logical question I was going to ask you was like, how's your Wednesday going? And then I thought for a second, I'm like, this is legit the first time that I've recorded a chat on a Wednesday, and I actually release the show every Wednesday for those who are paying attention. And so it's kind of like the first time where I can say, how's your Wednesday? And they're listening on a Wednesday. And they're like, wait a minute. Is he doing this at like 1:00 in the morning or what's going on here? So how is your Wednesday going, man?
It's good. No complaints. Actually, my wife had a little small surgery last week, so she's been staying home from work, and so I've been taking care of her. But she's getting a lot better.
Oh, good.
Yeah. She's getting a lot better. So she's probably happy that I'm upstairs now, away from her for the first time in like 4 or 5 days, and doing my thing.
They get bothered by us, don't they?
Yeah, they do, don't they?
It's weird how that works. It's like, you spend years and years and years, I love you, baby, and all this and stuff, and you go out on dates and you do dinner and all this stuff. Then you get married and it's like, everything's really happy. Then they're like, man, I just really want you to go away for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. So she's very happy we're doing this. That's for sure.
Well, fantastic. We'll strap in, sit down, make yourselves at home, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to have a nice little chat here. Dude, Shred Happens on Instagram. I am a fan of yours. Let me tell you, sir.
Yeah.
Mainly it's just the food pics, I think. No. I got to tell you, when I scroll through your feed, I just see all this beautiful food. And I know there's a wonderful story behind your journey and everything. And we're going to talk about all that. But just for a moment, we got to talk about how beautiful this food is on your Instagram feed. Because if you guys aren't at Shred Happens, if you guys aren't following that already, you're missing out, especially if you like the food pics. There's a lot of people that spend a lot of time taking wonderful food pics. And tell me about sharing your food on Instagram.
Yeah, well, number one, I'm so happy to be finally talking to you. I think we've been following each other for, for the better part of my journey. I joined like last September, and I feel like you were one of the first few that, I followed. And so it's great to finally be doing this podcast with you. I'm a big fan, and I listened to quite a few of them.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the food, I'm a big guy, I'm a big boy, and I love food, right? So
Me too.
You gotta take care of the food.
Yes.
So, when I started this account last September, I meant for the account to kind of demonstrate all aspects of my weight loss journey, right? So the ups, the downs, the fitness side, the Ironman training side, and like the marathon training side of things, and the food itself. But, as I started doing this, I got really interested and intrigued by the food aspect of things. And so I didn't necessarily, step out and with the intent of creating a more of a food blog or a food centric blog.
Right.
But I think that's kind of what's naturally happened. And, over the course of the last few months, there's been a number of times where I'm like, you know what? I should make this a little bit more balanced and make it more about my weight loss journey and more about the workouts that I'm doing and things like that, and less about food. And, I'll do that maybe for one or two posts, and then I always kind of come back to the food. And so, I'm just going to kind of go where the water flows, I guess.
This has got to be why your Instagram account, I mean, not only that, but you're a really nice guy. And again, the story, we're going to talk about this, but I guess this has got to be one of the main reasons why your Instagram account just kills, because people look at this beautiful food and like, I want more. Every time I look at your feed, I get hungry, and I'm just like, I really want to show up and check out your feed and see what you're up to and support. I'm just like, damn it, I got to stay away sometimes because this guy's making me hungry.
You got to mute me so I don't get you hungry.
I don't do the mute. But I sometimes I'm like, I gotta tap real quick and scroll really fast because I get really hungry real fast.
Well, that's a compliment, I guess. I'll take it as a compliment.
Well, dude, I mean, the presentation is amazing. Are you a freaking chef as another one of your hobbies?
No. I mean, I was always interested in food, and I remember as far back as I can remember,
right.
I was I was just interested in all aspects of food. And I remember, I spent a lot of my summers in middle school, watching the Cooking Network, or I forget exactly what it was called, but I would just watch it constantly. And my parents were like, what are you doing? And so, I was always curious about, watching it. I was never making good, food decisions growing up and through college and through the early part of my, my corporate career. And, so after graduating from college, I ended up working at a pretty large corporation for a number of years. And I was making decent choices, but fast food and going to Starbucks, for breakfast was a regular thing.
Yep.
Going out for lunch every day was a regular thing. And then I did this program where we were traveling pretty much 100% of the time. It was like a internal consulting and audit function of the company where we were on the road 100% of the time. And so literally breakfast, snacks, lunch, and dinner for 3 years were just all, eating out and going out to fancy dinners and nice dinners. And so that stuff kind of adds up. And so that was how I approached food. Even after I got out of the program, I kind of resorted to cafeteria food or Starbucks. And so I got to a point where I was like, you know what, this is just not working out for me. And I'm not happy. I'm not feeling good. I'm not making the right decisions. My blood work was coming back, and things weren't looking very hot. Right. And so I just kind of made the decision to make a change and to start experimenting. And, I think it's a really great compliment to hear you say, share your feedback about my page where it is now. And I think I've got a lot of improvement to do, but my food choices and the presentation and things like that didn't happen overnight. Sure. I've just been constantly learning over the last year, constantly adjusting my thing, getting inspired by it. There's a lot of talented folks on Instagram, whether they, give me ideas about certain ingredients or certain dishes or about how to present. I've learned so much on Instagram from this amazing community. And so it's just about, you get better at, whatever you're doing over time. So that's kind of the history behind it.
Well, I gotta say this. I mean, I feel like Gordon Ramsay would want to give you a hug looking at your feet.
Oh, that's very nice of
This
you.
guy, man. I'm a big like Hell's Kitchen Nightmares type. I get lost in all these shows a lot of times while I'm on the treadmill or the elliptical or the stairs or whatever it may be. And I gotta say, somehow I feel like you two guys got to collab and meet on something. I could see that happening. Like I know you're probably not, you're not in the culinary industry, but I mean, man, you guys got to like collab on site. I feel like he would be all over this.
Hey, I'll take any opportunity to see Gordon Ramsay.
Yes, and he won't be shouting at you. He'll be complimenting you.
Yeah.
So do I have this right? Your highest weight, you were around 320?
Yeah, 320. Yeah.
Okay. And were you?
And at some point,
okay,
I think it was right around 320, 325 max. I can't imagine it being too much higher than that on my body, but that is the last time that I recall seeing an actual number on the scale.
I see. And so all, through your early years into your early adult life, were you always kind of trending bigger, or is this something that,
Yeah, I think, I've always been bigger. I've always been a big, exercise was never really like moving around wasn't necessarily my, my weak point. I had, there was certain periods of my life where I was more active than others.
Right.
But food for me was always a big challenge, like volumes of food. I enjoy food, as you can tell.
Yes.
And so, I've the food was always what got me. And so I remember I was, as far back as I can remember, I was like the larger, I was one of the larger ones in my classes. And I'd say I was probably close to 200 pounds by like sixth grade.
Right.
And then it just kind of kept going up 10, 20 pounds every year. And so in college, by I believe my sophomore year, that's when I was at 320 at my highest weight. And so had a little bit of a shock. And I started making better decisions. Slowly by slowly, I cut out fast food. I know that's something you've talked about a lot, and I used to be, I used to be guilty of that too. And you can go to the gym and do 200 steps, 200 floors like you do, or 100 floors like you do, and burn, let's say, 600, 800,000 calories.
Right.
And feel great. But then if you're doing that and then going and having, a Big Mac meal from McDonald's and, eating 1,500 calories in one go, that's not necessarily going to help you in the long run. And so even during the times of my life where I was working out, I was negating all that, those calories that I was burning by just eating crappy food and making horrible decisions.
Right. And you mentioned you had kind of like a shock or a moment there. What flicked the switch? Did you see, was it like a reflection in the mirror kind of deal? Did you see a picture, or was it just health, or what was it that hit you?
So there was a number of things that happened, I would say, as I was gaining weight. And it's not like I flipped the switch and, I was 320 pounds, right? So there's different milestones. I was at 220, I was like, oh my God, I got to lose weight. At 250, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm 250. I got to lose weight. At 275, oh my God. And so, and throughout the course of all this, as I was kind of growing, getting to my peak weight, I was doing just about every diet possible, right? I mean, I remember going to Weight Watchers meetings. I remember doing like Jenny Craig. I remember doing Atkins. I remember doing the Zone. I remember doing certain cleanses. I mean, you name a diet outside of, I think, like Nutrisystem is the only one that I didn't do, but you name it and I've done it. The South Beach diet. And so, I do these and, I just stick to it. And I know this is going to hit on some of your pillars here, but, I'd stick to it for like a week or two. I'd see some progress, and I'd let my foot off the gas a little bit. Right. And little by little, I'd just completely take my foot off the gas, and then I'd gain everything back plus some. And so I was approaching it back then from a diet standpoint versus a lifestyle standpoint. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it really is true. And
Yes.
so, I got to a point where I was in a relationship, and I broke up with my girlfriend at the time, and I said, you know what, I said to myself at the time, you know what, like, if I'm not going to respect I can't expect somebody else to respect me and have, appreciate my worth if I don't appreciate my own worth.
Yeah, no,
And
that's true.
so that's kind of where I said, you know what, I'm just going to focus on me. I'm going to start eating better. And that's what I first started with, just making better decisions. So in the morning, rather than eating a sausage, egg and cheese breakfast sandwich, like I used to do with, whatever, and a coffee that's filled with sugar and cream, I
Yeah.
replaced that with something that was a little bit healthier, some nuts, a couple of eggs, you know, English muffin with peanut butter. Nothing too crazy, but just I took it one meal at a time, I remember. And once I got the breakfast down, I remember the next thing I did was lunch. And then dinner. And then after about 2, 3 months, that's when I stepped foot in the gym for the first time. And so my focus primarily was just on how do I eat better and make little decisions that kind of add up, and put some things in a box first and then move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so that's where I lost a lot of my weight, and I got down to about the 250 range
Right.
over the course of, I want to say, like a year. And for the next, I want to say 8 or 9 years, I hovered around the 250 range. I dropped down to 240. I went up to like 260, 250. And then, but when I restarted this journey, it was when I had reached almost 280 pounds again last September, when I said, you know what, I can't go back to what I was, and I need to put an end to this, and really make this kind of the epicenter of my life going forward, so that, I think you've said it a number of times in your podcast, but like, this is it. This is life. It's not going to be a 1 year, 2 year diet. It's not like I'm going to get down to, let's say, 200 pounds and say, all right, I've lost the weight, now I can do something else.
Yeah.
This is going to be something that for someone like me, and I'm sure for you, if this is not what you end up making the epicenter of how you make choices, it's something that's going to haunt us for, for life.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, you got to take it, a day at a time, and stick with it. One of the things that I've talked about recently, but for those who may be new, it's, I kind of went through like a little bit of a slump kind of thing around the end of August, and through a lot of September. Had a couple of deaths in the family, and it was a rough time. I mean, it brought me down to zero. But
Yeah.
one of the things that was non-negotiable for me was going to the gym. And so what I saw was some of my bad eating habits starting to trickle back in. And I did my best to kind of control it, the best that I could, but it still, slipped in there. But one of the things I told myself, I say, okay, I understand this is happening, and I feel like I don't have complete control, but I'm working on it. But one of the things that I will absolutely not let stop is going to the gym. And so, out of maybe missing 3 total workouts in about a month and a half, which is pretty damn good. I showed
That's
up.
very good.
Yeah, I showed up every other day, and I put in the absolute maximum effort that I could put in. And, had a couple of bad days in there where I'd still, like you mentioned earlier, you go out and you have, a crappy meal after all that. But, I was just kind of going in this weird, it's hard to put it into words when you think about it, because you're just like, man, this is just a rough patch. And when you try to describe it, it's very hard to figure out the words. But you're right. You got to show up, and you got to keep going.
That's exactly it. I mean, again, not to be, kind of disrespectful to what happened to you, but like, that is unfortunately a part of life, right?
Yes,
Deaths
absolutely.
are unfortunately a part of life. Breakups, sickness, whatever it may be, you're going to go through these rough patches.
Mm-hmm.
And I think bouncing back, and it's okay to come down, but you've just got to bounce back. You've got to remember why you started it. You've got to remember, what you ultimately want to achieve. You've got to remember, why you're doing this in the first place. And remember what happens if you don't stay true to the, to the values that you've set out for yourself. And so, I commend you for doing that, because and going through the gym during those times, because I think it's so easy to just fall back on the old habits. I mean, that's what's convenient, right?
Oh yeah.
Just sticking back, and you have an excuse. And so if you have an excuse and it's convenient, I mean, it's very tough to make the right call. And so good for you for doing that.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, man. It's just it gets to be tough. But when I told myself that, hey, you got to go, and there was even days where I was telling myself like, I'm not going, and then at another point, it's like, no, you're going. It's just like, you have to go. There's no way around this. You have to be in that gym, and you have to get on something. Even if you're walking on a treadmill, which I did not let that happen. I put in as much effort, absolutely, went, as hard as I could, as much as I normally do. But the mindset was, even if you just go in and walk on a treadmill, that's better than not showing up at all. And that's what, I try to tell a lot of people where, they're going through their own rough patch, or they don't know how to get started or something like that. And I'm just like, you just got to show up, and you just got to start moving, figure out what it is, figure out with what you're comfortable with. I think a lot of times we scroll through the Instagram, and we want to compare ourselves, or we want to try to do what somebody else is doing. And that's just it's not possible. It's like, okay, we'll take you, for instance, you're doing all these runs, the 5Ks and the marathons and the Ironmans and all that stuff. And that's awesome. You got a guy like me who's done 2 5Ks, and I want to get to a point where I do more, and we can definitely want to talk about that. But it's easy to look at like, what you've done and say, oh, well, God, I should go all the way. What's the biggest run you can possibly do?
For me?
Yeah.
The longest race I've done is a half Ironman, but for the run portion is half. I've done a half marathon, and I'm training for a full marathon.
Got it. So that's just like me saying, I'm at a 5K level, and I can do okay in a 5. I run a 5K in about 40 minutes. To me, that's good. And that's like me saying, you know what, the hell with the 5K. My man SHREDHAPPENS over here is killing it in some Ironman, some marathon. I need to just jump right up to that and just forget that, so we can become guilty of trying to compare ourselves. And I think that gets in our minds, and it becomes this thing that gets in our way that prevents us from getting started. We always are seeking that one thing that we need to get started without actually just putting in the work and getting started.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I mean, let's talk about the old Gary for a second, right?
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever imagine doing a 5K?
Absolutely not.
Right. And so you've got to start somewhere. And so the old Gary would be envious of the Gary of today. Hey, Gary can run a 5K in X amount of time.
Yeah.
I can't do that. And that's the thing. I mean, everybody starts somewhere. Everybody is running their own race, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Everybody's got some sort of reason for it. Everybody's at a different place in their lives. Everybody's got different stuff going on at home or at work, and everybody's at a different level. And so, I play the comparing game. I catch myself doing that all the time.
Yeah.
Not just, races. I mean, I did that. I was swimming today, and there was an older gentleman swimming next to me, and he was just killing me in the water. And, there was I caught myself like 7 times saying like, stop comparing yourself. Like, you don't know what this guy's done before. Right. Like, yeah, I don't know his story. And even if I did know his story, great for him. That's amazing that he can do that. I need to keep practicing so that I can get faster. And so that comparing game never goes away, whether it's, comparing your fitness level, or whether it's comparing like my food to other people's food. I do that all the time. I was doing that as early as today. But again, you just got to kind of catch yourself and say, you know what, I'm doing it this way, or I'm capable of this, and good for that person that's doing it this way.
Yeah. I mean, I remember getting started. It was kind of like, I just want to be able to walk on a treadmill for an hour. Can I do that without stopping? And within a matter of a couple of days of getting started, I was able to do that. And then slowly but surely you'd add a little speed, or, whatever that is, to add little challenges on. Or, talking about old me versus new me, it's like old me could barely walk up 1 flight of stairs, without feeling like he was going to die and lose breath. Meanwhile, new me is like, hey, I just went up. I think the most floors I ever did was 337, and that was about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So the old me would never, old me would never be able to even think about doing that, you know? And so it's crazy. So it's finding something that you want to do and setting a goal. That's really what it comes down to. It's setting the goals and slowly, one by one, trying to run right through them as best as you can.
Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. So speaking of which, you know, you're doing a lot of these runs, and how did that become like a thing for you? Like, were you, you know, starting on your journey and one of the things you were doing was on a treadmill or running outside and you said, hey, I really like this? Or how did that come about where you're like, I want to start participating in all these things?
Yeah, I mean, again, when I started my journey, similar to you, I last September, when I stepped in, and I think I can if I scroll back all the way down, I could probably find it. But I was running maximum 3-4 minutes on the treadmill, and I was like
Right.
completely out of breath.
I know that feeling.
And I did. I'm sorry.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, definitely. And I was just so upset with myself because I had done like a 5K. The longest race I had done was maybe a 5K like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was again a very leisurely 5K with plenty of walking. But when I started this thing, I wasn't a runner, and I was on the treadmill, and I finally got up to a 5K. I think like maybe 2.5 months in, I did a 5K. And I said, you know what? I'm going to train for a half Ironman. And I hadn't stepped into a pool in, I want to say, 15, 20 years, since I was like a 8-year-old taking classes.
Right.
I hadn't. So an Ironman is a swim, a bike, and then a run, and you've got to complete each of those three disciplines in a certain amount of time, and in total under a certain amount of time. And so I didn't even own a bike, and of course I wasn't very much of a runner, but it just seemed very unattainable at the time, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this as a way to keep myself motivated and help myself kind of raise the stakes little by little. And I think in hindsight, this varies for a number of people, but I think in hindsight, it was one of the best things that I could have chosen to do because, I get bored really easily.
Yeah.
And so, I really enjoy competition, and I really enjoy, finding fun ways to do something. So training for the Ironman and these running races, has helped me kind of raise the stakes little by little and do different things and challenge myself in different ways. And that's kind of what's kept it interesting for me. I'm not saying that it's going to work for everybody. It's the right thing for everybody, but
right.
I'm not the type of person that can go into the gym day after day and go X number of minutes on a machine, then another machine, then another machine, and then do X number of, sets on these different machines, and then go home and then be excited to do that again. I mean, I envy the people that are like that, but for me, variety is so key. And so one of the things that, training for an Ironman's enabled me to do is just to kind of mix things up constantly, to be able to get up to that Ironman level. So that's kind of the story behind it. It really just kind of happened. And I looked at it and I said, wow, I want to be able to do that. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And so I said, I'm going to do a half Ironman in 10 months and a full Ironman in 20 months.
That is so awesome. You're just like, again, it's like setting a goal and putting in the work to get to that goal. And that is so huge, dude. Yeah. That is so awesome.
Yeah. And, it felt surreal when I was, I did the half Ironman in August. Right. And when I went there, it just felt surreal that I was actually there. It really, I was looking around and there's these buff guys and, jacked ladies. And I'm like, wow, these guys are in amazing shape. And here I am. I mean, I've got a long way to go. But, it felt great to be acting on a goal that I had set for myself.
No, I love that. I'll tell you this. I definitely, I've done the 2 5Ks, and I guess what is the next step up? A 10K? Is that the next one?
Yeah, I mean, there's 7Ks, there's
Oh,
10Ks,
okay.
there's 14Ks. Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely, it's something that's I'm setting my sights on for next year. I don't like to run these things in the cold, so I
Yeah.
take the winters off. Yeah, I train inside and all that stuff. But
Hey, you've got mild winters. You don't really have
I don't
cold
know,
winters.
man. I don't know. You ever been to Northern Virginia? It gets pretty wild up here. It's lit
Is it
with the
wild?
weather. Let me tell
Okay.
you what. It's one day it's 80 degrees, the next day it's like 20. It's all over the place. This weather here is unreal. I got to get out of here. This weather's driving me nuts. I want to go south. I want to go to South Carolina, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you my biggest hang up when it comes to running, because I think one of the reasons why I do these things at about 40 minutes is because there's a little bit of that walk-in and running mixed in there. I can never do it continuously running the whole way through. And a lot of that is trying to stay focused, I guess is the right, if I can call myself out on my own stuff, because you do this a lot. I figure you'd be the perfect guy to talk to about it, but trying to keep that focus, because what happens is there's so many things going on. It's like, okay, I'm surrounded by all these people. Maybe we're taking a turn here and I make sure I don't trip or, roll my ankle or something, which has happened. And trying to keep that focus while I'm going. So while I have all these things running around my mind, and then I start thinking of this, that, and the other thing, it eventually starts messing with my breathing, which starts messing with the performance of my body, which slows me down. And if I'm going to try to go on to the next race, a bigger race, I need to try to figure out how to get this stuff under control. And so have you dealt with these issues early on as you were starting to get into this stuff, or am I just the only one here?
No, I mean, I think it's something that a lot of folks struggle with, whether it's running or something else. I'd say I don't have as much of a problem with it with running now. It kind of feels a little bit more natural. Generally, with running, though, I do have these. I find that, I zoned out for the last 5 minutes, and
Yeah.
I don't even remember. But I'm at a point where I actually enjoy when I zone out when I'm running, because it makes it go a little bit faster.
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, I've had places exactly where I've tripped, where I'm not breathing the right way, where I didn't, I'm not drinking water, because again, refueling as you're running is very important for your body to kind of continue performing, both from a water standpoint as well from a carbohydrate standpoint.
Right.
Um, but running isn't as big of a challenge for me as swimming is. Swimming is
Okay.
a psychological nightmare for me in terms of breathing, in terms of turning my head a little too much, in terms of keeping my body buoyant, in terms of the quality of each of my strokes, my speed.
Right.
So swimming is kind of my running, I guess, or swimming to me is kind of like running, I guess, is to you at this point. And so I've got to figure out how to do that. But I guess it's just switching from, focusing on one thing for, a few seconds to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. I'd love to know what, some of the more professional athletes have to say about that. But generally, that's kind of how I'm attacking it.
Yeah, I can only swim a very little bit. I couldn't imagine completing like a whole, I guess, lap. I know that I've tried in similar situations, like at a community pool, and it's not happening. I got the Apple Watch, and I'm like, they have like the pool workouts now, and I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, let me just see what this thing does. And so I'm like, let me try to swim in one of these lanes. Let me just go from one side to the other. And dude, it felt like going on the stairs for the first time,
Yeah.
or old me trying to walk up a normal flight of stairs. I was just so far out of it. I just felt like I was going to pass out.
Yeah, I'm with you. And believe me,
Ugh.
if it wasn't for it being part of the Ironman disciplines, I would not be stepping into a pool. It's just not my thing either.
Oh,
But
you're not really a swimmer as far as like leisurely. You don't like that.
I mean, I enjoy the beach, but
Yeah.
I don't, usually go swimming for fun.
Okay.
Yeah. It
Is
would
it?
be my last choice. But then again, it's fun. I mean, it's it's something that is challenging me in a way that I've never, challenged myself before. And it's kind of fun. And I know it's weird to say this, but it's kind of fun to get better at something you are absolutely horrible at. It just is.
Oh, true story.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to learn that on guitar, man. I've been playing for 20 damn years and I still can't play a lick.
But it's funny because one of the things that I love about you is, and I don't think I should have probably told you this, or maybe I did, but like you do so much.
I do too much.
Huh?
I do too much.
Yeah, but it's crazy, but you do it really well. Like, you've got this podcast and I listen to it and your sound quality is better than some of the most professional ones that I listen to. Like, you find ways to do things really, really well. So
I
this
appreciate
podcast,
that.
the Instagram, I know you do your, Gary does wrestling thing every now and then. You do your professional photography, which looks amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
I remember over the summer you were doing a few shoots for a couple of different bands. I mean, like I'm you're really good at the stuff that you do, and now you're saying you play the guitar, and yeah,
I've been playing that for a while. That's probably the thing I've been doing the longest, and a lot of that was was self-taught. And I think the problem with me is always like things come in cycles. So I have a lot of these passions. Podcasting, believe it or not, I stepped away for that for a couple of years before I came back last year. And you're right. I listen to so many podcasts because I'm just a podcast junkie. And a lot of it, like these bigger podcasts, I'm like, you guys have a big budget, right? You have like a Podcast One or Westwood One or any of these like podcasting networks that are paying you money, and your podcast sounds like this. And like I went into freaking debt buying gear. I mean, that's real talk. I went into debt buying gear, but it sounds good. And like I don't make a lick for doing this podcast. I do it because I love to do it. And I try to think of like somebody that's listening, and the average person doesn't give a damn about like what it sounds like. I feel like a lot of people, they put it on and they're working out, they're driving, whatever they're doing. They don't really care. But to me, I listen to that and I hear little things and it just drives me nuts. It's like, if I had the budget that half of these podcasters did, I've already got the gear. If I'm at fault for anything, it would be, I would be in Cincinnati right now sitting with you face to face, other than Skype, because Skype a lot of times gets on my nerves, although we're having a good run with it right now. But if I had half the budget that these big time podcasters had, I'd be traveling the country and meeting everybody and talking to them face to face, because I'm just like, man, that's really what it's all about. That's one of the things about Instagram that I've really loved. And it's meeting new people and talking. You probably wouldn't believe a lick of what I'm saying if I told you that for the longest time, for so many years, I've been very introverted, and that I don't really, prior to the last year, I never really communicated with a ton of people. But getting on Instagram, sharing the journey, meeting people like yourself on Instagram has really opened me up to talking to people. And then the other thing is, what a lot of people don't realize when they listen to this podcast, it's like, this is like the first time, other than like DMs, this is the first time we're like talking. So if people are like, wow, this sounds it sounds like they've never talked before. Yeah, that's right. Because we never talked before. Like that's the whole point. And it's one of these things, and full credit to the YouTube channel Yes Theory. I've mentioned them once or twice, but their motto is seeking discomfort. It's doing things that are out of your comfort zone to push yourself to be a better person, to try new things and be more adventurous. And this for me is like on a major like scale, like we're hitting that 10 out of 10 on the discomfort scale, not because you're not a nice guy or whatever, but because for the longest time, an old me would think this is so weird, just like getting with strangers on Skype and talking to them. But I love this now. Like this. I love this. I live for this stuff. This is great.
It's amazing, huh?
And if I could find like the right company or something to say, hey, we'll pay you to travel around the country to meet these people, I would love to do that. If I wasn't so far in debt that I already am, I would do it on my own dime, or maybe I just need to crowdfund or something. But my end goal is to go around the country and meet all of you and have conversations like, Daryl, I know you did his podcast, and he's a guy.
If you come out to Cincinnati, you can do you can meet us both at the same time.
That's right. You guys are both out that way.
Yeah.
So I think of all these great people, and I met a few people. Nikki Bronca 787. I met her once. We did a podcast in Gary Vee's parking lot. She is amazing. I was so
jealous of you guys that day, by the way.
She is absolutely amazing. I love her just outlook on things. The way she says it just articulates it in such a way where I just get it. And I'm like, yes, I'm with you. And so meeting her and hearing her story was incredible. There's this other guy, Ryan, at Big Sexy Bearded Beast. I went down to Charleston, South Carolina. I met him. He's also big into running. So if you guys don't know each other, this is your unofficial, official.
Check him out.
Go meet each other. Yep. At Big Sexy Bearded Beast. So I met him, and I'm trying to think. There's this other gal, Sheila Jan 143. She's local in the area. I met her, and we did a podcast face to face. And then the other one that I did, so I've only done 4. Then there was Todd.Live. He's out of California, but he was in Charleston. So I met him when we did a podcast in the middle of a barbecue restaurant with people looking at us like we were crazy.
I think I remember that. Wait, was that the one, or maybe Wendy's? Did you do one at Wendy's?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did one at Wendy's with the Primal Bro. So I have done 5 of them now. Okay, I stand corrected. I've done 5 of them.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more as far as seeking discomfort than going into a public restaurant where people are just trying to eat their damn meal. And I'm sitting here with a little podcast recorder and 2 mics, and we're just chatting. I mean, I guess it shouldn't be that big of a deal, because it's like we're just sitting there. It's not like I have like a 4-camera shoot and all this stuff, which, believe me, that's another thing I want to eventually do is turn this into a video as well. But just going out there and challenging yourself. That's what I like what you've done with the marathons and what I'm trying to do with this podcast. And one of these days I'm going to figure out, I mean, you mentioned like I do all these things. One of these days I'm going to figure out like the 1 or 2 like really, really good things and just hone in on those, because I'm guilty of it. It's like I dip my toes in so many things. And I think probably what it's going to end up being is probably the photography and the podcast, because these are the 2, and then there's the clothing line and all. I mean, there's all these things, but I'm not going to get rid of that, but I am going to keep that. But there's just all these things that you dip your toes into, but it's exciting. We live in this great time where you have the internet at your disposal, and you can, come up with a great idea and put it out to the world. And if it's something that people like, the market will speak and they will react. And if it's something they don't like, then you just pack up shop and, so be it.
Yeah. And I think more importantly, through the process, you're learning, about different things. Right. And so, yes, you ideally want to get to a point where you're focusing on a couple things, but the experience and the learnings you've had from, let's say, doing the t-shirts or the podcast or the photography, like those things are translatable to other things, and like the relationships that you build doing this stuff, play a huge role in terms of what you're going to end up doing down the line.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about, I like being, I guess, kind of the content creator, the storyteller, but for me, it's really about meeting the people. That's really where it comes. That's why Instagram, I put so much out there, and I've been trying to get on myself to put more, because I kind of really, stepped back for a little bit in the last month, but I need to get back on it, because I love just the talking with new people and keeping up with the people that I already know, and just checking in and seeing what's going on. I love that. I just think it's just one of the best things. It's like you make all these new friends, and it really, it's all about who you surround yourself with, right? So we have this weight loss community, and everybody is so supportive of everybody else. And I love this. I love going on somebody's picture and saying, man, you're crushing it. Keep up the great work. And just seeing the support that people have for one another. It blows me away, the kindness of others in this community.
I think I agree with that. I was talking to Daryl actually a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying, a lot of there's a certain community on Instagram that a lot of us support each other in so many ways that it makes it feel like were friends and family for a number of years.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's not just liking a photo or commenting. It goes beyond that. I know you and I have, chatted every now and then on DMs where, something's going on and we'll just like briefly send each other a message. And I know that goes for a number of other people. And so I feel like, it's not just Instagram. I mean, I guess we met through Instagram, but a lot of the people that we interact with have a vested interest in terms of making or seeing others succeed and seeing others do well on their journey.
Absolutely.
That's what makes us feel special.
Absolutely. And now that's another thing I wanted to check about. So how did you land on Instagram as far as, sharing your journey? Was it something to where you already had one previously and you just made like a fitness one, or did you sign up specifically with the intent of, I'm going to document my journey on Instagram?
Yeah. So I'd really enjoyed the Instagram platform. I had a personal account for a number of years, really. I think ever since they came out. I was an early adopter.
Yeah.
Now I didn't do the hashtags and the geotagging and stuff like that, but I really enjoyed taking photos. And so I don't recall exactly. I mean, I think when I started, I really wanted to also do YouTube, but
yes,
I just don't have the skills that many folks do. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to just document my weight loss journey on Instagram. And, to be perfectly honest with you, and you do this way better than I will ever do, but much of the reason why I was focused on food versus the other aspect is because I just found that I was really uncomfortable being vulnerable out in the open.
Right.
And you do a great job at it, on your podcasts and in your posts, but it just felt like a whole different world to me, a world where, like, yes, I should challenge myself to be more vulnerable, but at the same time, it just wasn't my cup of tea.
Was it just like sharing stories or pictures or a combination, or?
Yeah, both. I mean, still to this day, I haven't posted a photo, transformation photo of, let's say me shirtless, or
sure.
I haven't, I briefly touched on, hey, listen, after I did my race, I mean, I gained about probably 7 or 8 pounds because I was just feasting, eating whatever I wanted for about a month and a half after my Ironman. Right. And so I had to kind of, I went through a funk too, much less, severe than, what you were going through. But, I went through a funk where I was like, okay, now that my race is done, what am I going to do with my life? What am I doing? What am I going to do next? And, I deserve it. And so, there was about a month and a half where, I was just kind of putting on weight little by little. Luckily, I've, put it back in a box now. But, I did end up touching on it, after I went on a vacation and I came back in September. But, I think you were talking about it in one of your previous podcasts where you were saying, there's ups and the downs, and people generally post only the ups. And,
oh yeah.
I'm certainly guilty of that. I mean, I'll kind of very, very briefly touch on some negative things, but I think it's very important for people to keep in mind that, everybody's got their own stuff that they're dealing with. I mean, nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to, lose a bunch of weight in a very linear line. No one's going to, start running, marathons and half marathons and 5Ks, in a linear line. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be failures along the way. And, it's just part of the journey.
No, it's true. And I've mentioned this before, but it's relevant to mention it now. It's like, to your point, everybody's going through something. And I think that, as long as you're absolutely comfortable with it, I think it's good to share the bad stuff, because you're probably going to end up helping some people, whether that's just one person or 5 people. You're sharing something, because we're all kind of wrapped up in this weight loss community on Instagram. You're going to share something that a lot of people are going to relate to. It's not like you're talking to a room full of, I don't know, bodybuilders, right? You're talking to people that are on a similar track, not the same track, but a similar path, similar track. And so when you share this, you got people that can identify, like, oh yeah, I get that. Totally. I get that. And it's just like, that for me, that's the reason to share. Number one, because I feel like they're going to understand it. But number two, there may be people that don't always, they get it, but, or they do get it and they don't want to share, but they read that and they say, you know what? I'm with him on that, and maybe I'm going to share something that I'm going through or whatever what you put out there can inspire others. And I think that a lot of people don't always realize that.
Yeah, and that is the truth. So maybe that's the challenge that I'll take on going forward is, next time something goes wrong, post about it.
I'll tell you what, dude, I got terrified. There was like one or two times posting something where I got really scared. There was a photo where it was completely just a current photo where there was all this like, loose hanging skin, and it was a post about loving yourself. And I think it's one of the 4 pillars to me. It's very important to me because I believe that if you don't love yourself, it is game over. You need that. It has to be there. So that was very terrifying. There was another one where I had a shirt. One of these photos I use semi-frequently of me in a black suit. I don't have the full suit, but I have the shirt from the suit. And I thought it would be a great idea maybe to inspire people to absolutely get completely naked and wear nothing but the shirt for the strict point of showing how much weight I'd lost, where this shirt covered every possible private area to where it just looked like me wearing a shirt and maybe my shorts were underneath, but they weren't. There was nothing there. It was just the shirt, but to show people that this is how far it's come and this is what you can do if you just make it a priority to make a plan and execute. And don't give up. And this is what happens. Here's the guy where that belly is just pushing that shirt out and expanding. And then here's the guy 100 pounds later who's wearing only the shirt and absolutely nothing underneath of it. But you can't see that because the shirt is so big now because there's no belly to push it out. And I thought that photo was very powerful. I need to find it. I've lost this photo now. I'll just take another one. But I wanted to put it out there again because I think it's just such a powerful photo for me that keeps me going. A lot of the stuff that I post, it is to inspire others, but it is to also inspire myself. Just like you mentioned, where you go through this rough patch, you need to remind yourself why you started, why you're at where you're at, because you didn't quit, because you kept going. And so I really need to keep posting these things just to inspire myself.
Yeah, and to give yourself credit, right? To pat yourself on the back and say, "Hey, man, good job! Like, look at how far you've come." I think I'm guilty of this to a very large extent, where you don't appreciate how far you've come.
Oh my God,
the changes that you've made, and you're always focused on, not you, but we are always focused on, hey, I need to lose X more pounds, or I want to get to this size or this weight, or I want to be able to fit into this shirt that I have. And it's always about the future, and what you should be or could be.
Right.
And I think we've got to do a better job at saying, hey, you know what, like, look where I am today versus last month, last year, last week, yesterday, and appreciate ourselves and give ourselves a pat on the back for where we are today.
I don't know if this ever happens to you, and I agree completely. I think like to that point of beating yourself up, there are some times where I just get, I can't really say that hooked on water is a bad thing, but there are days where I definitely have had too much, and it almost gets treated like my food addiction used to be, where I used to eat too much. Now there's days where I drink too much water and I need to chill out on that. But there's a point of where I have one of these days where I've drinking so much that I'm so bloated and my belly's poking out a little bit, and it's poking out on this either extra large or double extra large shirt, cause they all fit differently. But it's poking out, and I'm like, I get mad at myself. I'm like, damn it, Gary, you fat ass. You're sitting here with your poked out belly. You feel all bloated. You just had way too much. And I'm like, hold on a second, dude. Used to be in a 5XL shirt, a 5XL. What could you possibly be upset about other than a little bit of discomfort with your belly on this shirt? Think about where you were.
Too much water.
Yeah. Because you're drinking too much water. It's not 3 Big Macs from the drive-through parking lot on the way home from work. It's you drank too much water, you know. And I'm still guilty of that, dude. There's still days where I just drink way too much damn water, and this happens, and I'm like, it's a bad day, and blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, man, you used to be in a 5XL. Quit your bitching, you know.
That's insane. That's insane.
You never have those days where you drink too much water? Is that such a thing?
I wish I had those days. I try to drink half my body weight in ounces, and I generally do about 2 to 3 liters a day. I wish I could do like 4 to 5 liters a day.
Yeah. I need to.
You drink too much water?
Dude, it's a thing because here's the thing, okay? I work on a print machine, and so I'm in a warehouse and I'm just walking around, moving, and we have this very nice filtered water machine. It's ice cold, but then there's also the ice machine that we have, and these ice cubes are just the right size. You put them in your mouth, you can suck on them for a while, and I'll eat a bunch of ice too. And so I'm going in this kitchen like every 15 to 20 minutes refilling this thing all day long, and then finally I'm at like 2:00 and I'm like, okay, dude, you need to stop right now. Because I've probably gone through 200 ounces of water at least.
That is impressive. Now, this might be too much information, but I generally love the days where, my what is clear. That's the best. So
yes.
I'm assuming yours is always clear.
It stays that way, except for the weekends. That's the other thing too. It's like on the weekends, because those are kind of like, I know people have their different opinions on cheat this or cheat that. For me, the weekends, I keep them pretty loose. It helps keep me sane because I try to be so strict during the week that when the weekends here, I'm like, all right, and without getting too out of hand, although there's been a few weekends here, let's just keep it real. But, where, for whatever reason, I don't drink as much water. Like I don't drink anything. I just I'll sit on the couch or lay in bed and I don't drink anything. And I'm like, dude, what the hell's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm at work, I'm running around and I'm just drinking water all day long. It's crazy. I can't explain it. It's weird.
And did you always drink a lot of water?
No. I used to be Mr. Soda, man. I used to drink all the soda. I haven't had a drop of soda in nearly 2 years. I haven't had a bite of McDonald's in nearly 2 years.
That's incredible.
That blows my mind.
Do you crave soda anymore, or is that done?
No, that's gone. Yeah, I have supplemented that with there's this Snapple peach tea that I allow myself to have only on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all water during the week, nothing but. And then on the weekends, if I'm feeling like I want something to drink, then it's the Snapple peach tea, or there's the occasional beer here and there. I mean, if we're just being honest here, like a little bit of a Miller Lite here and there. So that's really what it comes down to. That's what I usually have.
I can't imagine. Were you doing regular sodas before or diets?
Regular, all the way.
Regular.
It was either Coke, Dr. Pepper, or Baja Blast.
And every day?
Every day.
Damn.
Every single day. That and sweet tea. Although the sweet tea wasn't so far out of control to where I didn't ban that, because I wasn't like craving it and needing to have it every single day. But the sodas were just so far out of control. I have my own fridge at work, and I was literally filling this fridge up with cases of soda and just sucking them down all day long. And then I kind of, before I even started the journey, this would have been, so I started January 2017. So like around November or December of 16, just cold turkey. I said, what happens if I just stop drinking the soda? And I just filled up the fridge with water and only water, and just drank. Incredible. Yeah, I just drank I think I have a picture somewhere. I'll have to if I can find it, I'll send it to you, where the fridge is just filled up with nothing but bottles of water.
I want to see that.
Yeah, I got to find that. It's just there is
nothing
in there but water.
I wish you had a picture of the fridge filled with what you were drinking before too, and do a side by side. That would be awesome.
Me too, but you never really think like, hey, let me just take a picture of a fridge filled with soda. It never crossed my mind. Yeah. But you know what? So when I started, it was like McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, and Wendy's. Those are the 4 things that were just crazy. What was, when you were eating a lot, did you have like one thing that was just like, God, I got to have this. Like one thing that just took over?
So I used to work, so in college, I'd say it was probably McGriddles.
McGriddle. Okay, like the McDonald's,
McGriddle.
the breakfast.
The breakfast, yeah. And so, you start your day with a McGriddle. I mean, it can only get worse from there, right?
Of course.
And so, I really, really like the McGriddles. My eating habits did get better after college. Even though I gained weight, I was gaining weight back, but in the early part of college, I was doing a lot of fast food. And so, and the challenge was also, the fourth meal in college, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you're up at like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and, your roommates are ordering pizza and, you're drinking beers and pizza. And so, and chicken wings. And so, and this is on top of, fast food or, meal you've had from the cafeteria, earlier on in the day.
Yeah.
And so, but I'd say like the late night pizzas probably did it for me. And, I loved McGriddles, the sweet and salty. Man, they're so good.
I think old you and old me could have really just tore some shit up back in the day.
Oh, we yeah, definitely. we would have torn a lot of wrappers, that's for sure.
Oh my God. I don't know if I ever told the story in a podcast, but me and my best friend, we used to stay up late, and this will show the age of this, but PS3, we would stay up all night playing like WWE on PS3, but we'd go to McDonald's first and we get our poor man Big Mac, which is the $1 McDouble. Hold with the Big Mac sauce, hold the ketchup, hold the mustard. Although later I just let them keep it on because they were going to charge me regardless. And we'd get like 6 a piece in a bag, and we just have a competition while we're beating each other up and wrestling. Like, ooh, how many of these poor man Big Macs can I suck down? And I think in one night we had like 10 a piece, and that was just crazy.
10 burgers.
Yeah, but at that time I wasn't driving, so I was walking everywhere. So I don't want to say it completely kept it off, but it was like holding it at bay to a certain degree because I was walking like 5-6 miles a day. But dude, it used to be pretty crazy. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't think I did, pizzas. I could do like large pizzas, but I don't think I ever ate more than like 2 burgers.
Yeah.
Obviously with fries and, maybe the apple pie or the sundae or whatever they have there.
You guys have White Castle in Cincinnati?
We do.
Okay. I old me could tear up a Crave case for sure.
I've never been to White Castle though.
Oh, wow. Well,
they all seem sketchy.
Well,
the ones around me.
I don't want to recommend it to you now because you're in such a great place. But if you ever have a dark side cheat kind of day, and I'm not encouraging this in any way, shape, or form, but okay, let's just put it this way: there's absolutely no other food on earth, and you have to end up there somehow, some way. It's not the worst place in the world to be. Just don't probably eat more than like 2 or 3 of those little burgers, and I think you won't put too much damage on yourself.
Yeah, they're little, right?
Yeah, they're really little. Yeah. But old me used to get the suitcase full of them, and that's like 30 in a case, and just
oh my God,
tear them to shreds, man. The shred was happening at some White Castle. Let me tell you, a different kind of shred. They put them in these little boxes, and the cheese is so nice and gooey, and oh God, it's terrible.
Now you've got me intrigued. Let me find a less sketchy one.
Yes.
On the weekend, on my cheat day, I will at least try one, and I will send you a review.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to document a review on Insta stories.
I love that. I love that.
In your honor, I think I'm going to do my first IGTV, and I'm going to put it up on there.
This is epic. But I'll also tell you this: they supposedly have a healthier option, so maybe you got to try like an original. But they have this healthier option called the Impossible Burger, and it's made completely out of like plant-based.
I thought you were going to say it's like wrapped in like lettuce or a portobello mushroom or something.
No, it's all. Now I've not tried this. I've not been brave enough because I'm such a picky eater, dude. Like this is probably one of the main reasons why my food is not completely perfect. Like I have gotten it to a point where my portions are in check, but then also I'm eating like more healthier options. But the problem with me is it's so repetitively the same stuff because I'm such a picky eater that there are a lot of things that I don't like any kind of like Asian or Indian. Like I'm not adventurous. Like I'll have Mexican. I do like Mexican. I like Italian and anything American. Beyond that though, I cannot get past the textures and the smells of some of this food. I cannot get past it. And so with that, a lot of these foods I eat is the same stuff. So when White Castle says, hey, we have this Impossible Burger, it's plant-based. I'm like, I don't know if I'm brave enough for that yet. But if you're going to do an IGTV review on it, then, you can kind of break it down like, man, I'm tasting a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And man, it tastes just like a real burger. And then that's when I'll go and try it, I think.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a wellness, what'd you call it? A wellness one?
Impossible Burger. Yeah.
So I'm going to do an Impossible Burger, and because they're small, you said, right? So
super small.
And I'm going to do a regular one.
Perfect.
Yeah. So what's your favorite fast food joint?
Oh man. Well,
Old Gary.
Old Gary was McDonald's. I mean, that was the OG. McDonald's. But now, you see, here's the thing now. It's like there are places that I allow myself to go to because I can have control, where I might go to them once a month or maybe twice a month at most. And that's like a Shake Shack, because I think that their burgers are a lot more better tasting. Like I can tell it's a good burger when I eat it, and I don't feel like my stomach's going to explode after one little burger. I mean, they're not little burgers, but they're not the biggest burgers either. But I know that that's more of a better burger. It's not saying it's great for me, but I'm just saying it's like, I know it's not pumped with all this junk.
Right.
Or, Chipotle even, I can go there and believe it or not, get something that is not absolutely going to just kill me.
Yeah.
And I can eat off there for 2 days. I get this burrito bowl and I pack it, down tight, but split it right down the middle. And I got 2 meals right there.
Oh, you actually save it for a second meal.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I had my roommate used to go to Chipotle on Sundays and get his entire week's worth of meals and just pack them separately, put them in the fridge, and every day he takes them out and microwave them.
That is epic.
Yeah, that is pretty epic.
That is really epic, because that's one of the things that is what I would call a good addiction, because I really crave it a lot, but I don't just act on it. I mean, I probably am in there maybe once a month. And when I do, boy, the wife and I, it's like a treat, and we love it. Yeah. And there are some times where, if it's a weekend, I'm really feeling good. If I've had a great week, then I'll eat the whole bowl. But more often than not, I try to split it right down the middle, because it's good enough for 2 meals easily.
I was having this conversation with my wife the other day. She kind of like left, I forget where we were at, but she left a portion of her meal. And I said, you know what? Like, I just don't understand people that have the discipline to leave some food. Like if it's on my plate, I'm eating it. There is no taking it to go.
Yeah. So, what helped me with that? I'll share this, and I know it may not work for everybody, but when I started, I was talking with a coworker, and they were like, it's important that you have a couple of little snacks throughout the day. And so I was finding like these little tiny bag of pretzels, like 80 calories a bag. It's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. And what I would do is I would say, okay, I'm going to have this snack around 10:30. And so what I would do is I would place this bag of pretzels in front of me on my desk at work at like 9:30 and have to stare at them and force myself not to eat them for the next hour. And it was very tough in month 1 and month 2. I never actually crumbled, but mentally it was tough. And so by month 3, I finally was able to just leave them there. And then I started really messing with myself. I'd lay them out like an hour or 2 earlier than that.
That's impressive.
Yeah, to where I'm staring at them for like 2-3 hours. And I just got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I don't need this right now. And then finally at snack time, okay, time to tear them open and let's get to work. But it really helped. I don't know. It's something weird that it was like a test, and I was like, I wonder if I can do this. And I was able to do it. It was crazy. So, going forward though, what I'd love to hear about next is like, what are some of your goals for the next couple of years upcoming? I mean, obviously you're just out there crushing it. You're putting up all these kind of good dishes of food. You're running all these marathons. You're doing a hell of a job, man. I'm so happy to see how far you've come. What is like the next couple of years look like? Do you have goals mapped out, and what do you hope to be doing?
Yeah, so I guess I'd kind of bucketize them into 3 areas. One, on the fitness side, I do want to do a complete full Ironman next year. So that's That's almost 2.5 mile swim,
Right.
10 miles or so biking, and then a full marathon right after. And you got to do all that in 18 hours or less. So that's on the horizon for me for anytime between June and November of next year. And so
Right.
that's a long, long putt. And then I want to do my first full marathon in May. I'm doing the Flying Pig, which is a big kind of like 40,000 person event in Cincinnati. The whole city comes out to support it. People actually fly in from, I want to say like 30 something countries last year to do it. So it's something really big. I am an ambassador for it. And so if anybody wants to come to Cincinnati, they can talk to me. I don't get paid to do it, but I can get people a discount. So if they do want to come in and, even walk it, I know so many people that do, walk any of the events. So do a full marathon, in short, do a full marathon and do a full Ironman next year from a fitness standpoint. Second, from a weight standpoint, I want to lose another 30 to 40 pounds over the next year. So, I lost about 55 pounds over the last 12 months or so.
Right.
So, and then I, of course, went on vacation and, I was off for, a little bit. And so I got to get back on the saddle and just kind of cruise forward. And I want to do another 30 to 40 pounds over the next year. And then from a kind of a professional standpoint, I'd love to, work on a food product of some sorts. I like entrepreneurship. I love food. I want to eventually get into, a healthy packaged food product. And so I don't know what that's going to be at the moment, but ideally over the next couple of years, I'd like to be able to jump into that space.
I think you would absolutely kill it in that space.
Thank you.
No doubt about it. I mean, you got all this stuff, and we got to get you hooked up with Gordon Ramsay. I'm not going to let this go. If I have to like mention him in every one of your damn posts until he actually like responds to it, I don't know. We're gonna have to figure something out here.
You know what the weird thing is? I'm pretty sure you could get his attention. Didn't you get you got the Miz, right?
That was a cousin of mine who hooked my wife's cousin hooked that one up.
Yeah,
which is pretty epic.
Amazing. That was amazing.
I
used to watch the Road Rule. He was on the Road Rules. Was it like the Road Rules?
Real World
on MTV.
I think he did Real World first, and then he did the Road Rules. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I used to love him. He was amazing.
Oh yeah, this guy
was so fun.
Such a personality. I hope one day to meet him and shake his hand and thank him personally for that. One of the things I was actually going to bring up as we'll wrap up here in a moment. I appreciate your time. There's a guy who has my name. This guy is also named as Gary Cantrell, and apparently he does his own marathon in Tennessee. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's called the Barkley Marathons. Runners may elect a fun run of 60 miles or the full course of 100 miles. The race is limited to a 60-hour period and takes place in late March or early April of each year. And apparently you have to like write a letter to this guy to get in. It's like such a secretive thing.
No way.
Yeah, dude, it's a real thing. I was Googling myself because I wanted to see like what kind of results came up. I wanted to see would it be easy if people were looking for the podcast or whatever. And this Gary Lazarus Lake Cantrell, that was like his nickname or something, came up, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? He's like some old guy with his big beard, and my beard's coming back in full force. So this guy's got me beat. But apparently he does this marathon in Tennessee. And I was just thinking about that because you're into all this stuff. I'm like, man, Google this guy. He's got this marathon that goes up to 100 miles.
Why isn't he a podcast guest?
I don't know.
You have to have Gary Cantrell on your podcast.
I need to track this guy. Apparently it's very hard to get a hold of this guy, but I need to find it.
I'm going to work on Gary Cantrell.
Okay.
And Gary Cantrell is going to work on Gordon Ramsay.
Okay.
So my two action items are do a review of White Castle.
Yes.
And get Gary Cantrell to give Gary Cantrell a podcast.
That would be very epic. And I will start putting Gordon Ramsay onto your posts, and hopefully maybe I can get him to yell at me.
Liking it, just at Gordon Ramsay every time I post.
I love that. I'm going to get to work on that one.
That's awesome.
So before we wrap up here, tell everybody where to find you, where you want them to go, where they need to be, all things Shred Happens.
Yeah. So, I'm unlike you. I've got Instagram, and then through Instagram, you can always contact me by phone or email or, DM me or whatever it may be. So I'm at Shred Happens on Instagram.
Yes.
And, seriously, any questions on food, on my journey, on, getting started walking, running, whatever it may be. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a, personal trainer, but I'm happy to share my personal experiences with anybody.
You've come a long way, man. I'm so happy to see what you've done in this amount of time. It's really an incredible journey. And I want to encourage everybody. I feel like a lot of the people that listen to this probably are already aware of you. However, if you are not, this is the part where you swipe up on your phone or hit that home button, go over to Instagram, put in Shred Happens right now, immediately, especially if you like to look at good food, and go on here and follow this man because he's really done some amazing things. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and hanging out with me. It's been a blast. Would you believe we've gone an hour 15 now?
That's crazy. No, I've had a blast too. You're awesome, dude. Love your energy. Love what you're doing, and love your authenticity, man. Don't let up.
No, not for a second. And I will say this: the next time that we have a chat like this, we got to do it in person. This is what I say. We got to do it in person. And whether it's over some Impossible Burgers at White Castle or whatever it may be, or hanging out with Gordon Ramsay because he's going to be your new BFF the moment he sees your Instagram. One of these things, we're going to make this happen. I have a feeling.
Listen, next year, 2019, New Year's resolution, you can come to Cincinnati. You can do one of the Flying Pig races with me and Daryl, and then after we can go to White Castle.
There you go.
5 good things in one.
When is this race next year?
We'll get Bronk to come. I call her Bronk, by the way. She probably hates that. But it's the first weekend of May, so I think it's like May 4th, 5th, and there's a number of different races. So I think it'll be fun.
All right. I'm gonna mark that on my calendar right now. Beginning of May. I gotta get this list for 2019 up and going. I got quite a few things that I have in mind that I have not unveiled yet because we're not really near the end of the year, but I'm gonna get on that, my friend. Dude, what an amazing chat. Everybody go follow him right now. Instagram at Shred Happens. I hope you have a great night and a great rest of your Wednesday. That's right. We're recording this on a Wednesday. It's released on a Wednesday. This is amazing. What a great chat. Thanks, dude.
Thank you, my man. Have a great night.